Well, around here, folks, the NBA, well, it continues to just get stranger and stranger, especially around here. The Knicks are up, man, the Knicks are down, and the Nets are up, right? But we also want to talk about that. Joining me is Eric Hicks of GameOverNYC.com.
Hey
Welcome,
there, man.
Eric.
Good to be here.
Besides that, first, I want to get into the conversation about players who were impactful in the NBA in the past, and also here in New York City, especially at the high school level, here in Brooklyn, too.
Okay, let's
and
do
my
it.
first player up is the crossover king, Dwayne Pearl Washington, Boys and Girls High School. He also went to Syracuse. We want to see that picture of Dwayne Pearl Washington right now. There he goes.
Let me tell you something. Dwayne Pearl Washington got up to Syracuse when the Carrier Dome was first opening. So he's one of the first.
And the Carrier Dome was named after an air-conditioned company, right?
Absolutely, but Carrier Dome's huge, right? He filled the place. Anytime Dwayne Washington played at the Carrier Dome, it was must-see basketball. He was exciting, considered one of the most exciting players to ever play college basketball, which is saying a lot when you consider guys like Magic Johnson, and even Pete Maravich. So Dwayne Washington was special. I mean, Dwayne Washington owns one of the 50 greatest moments in Madison Square Garden history. Dwayne Washington was a show by himself, a one-man fast break. Just ask Georgetown.
And he was also the king of the crossover.
King of the crossover, but he was more than that. Dwayne Washington could get any shot he wanted and could get anywhere on the court he wanted. He was devastating too. Georgetown, for instance, in the Big East Finals, had the renowned defense, the renowned full court press. Dwayne Washington went through it like water.
Okay. And in terms of his pro career,
Pro career not that great. You know, he went to he was drafted, I believe, 13th pick out of Syracuse,
Yeah.
but by the Nets, and his pro career never really mirrored what his college career was. But Dwayne Washington is something else, and he's one of the most humble guys. I remember seeing him in the halls of Canarsie High School, and I used to see the team around him, and the players had no idea who this guy was.
And he also was a coach also at Jefferson for a brief moment,
Yes,
the girls
yes,
team.
he
All right,
was.
let's move on. Also, another player, he came out of Fort Hamilton High School, went to the University of Maryland, also drafted by the Nets. Matter of fact, one of the most sensational high school basketball players in this country during the 70s, late 70s, and also went to Maryland, Al King.
And let me tell you about Al King. After Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, which was Lou Alcindor back in the day, he was the #1 recruited basketball player ever to come out of New York City. Albert King was a childhood phenom. They were doing TV specials about him at 13 years old. I can remember trying to get to games at Fort Hamilton High School. You couldn't even get on the block, let alone get to the game. He used to battle with a guy in the Bronx called Artie Green. And when the two of these guys played, it was electric. It was absolutely
You also
electric.
were telling me if Al King fouled out of a game, the whole audience would just leave.
See, I used to watch on the street ball level also, and I remember there was a tournament called the Whitney M. Memorial Classic down in Harlem, and everybody wanted to see Albert King versus Artie Green, and if either one of them fouled out, the park would empty. It's a classic story.
All right. He also was drafted by the Brooklyn Nets or New York Nets or New Jersey Nets, whatever you want to call them, coming out of University of Maryland.
Coming out of the University of Maryland, played 9 years in the NBA. Once again, didn't have a stellar NBA career, but did play for, I believe it was the Sixers, the Spurs, and the Bullets. Albert King had a decent career, but never really lived up to what we thought he would be. He, from the cover of Sports Illustrated and TV shows and things like that, never really lived up to it. But he is a successful businessman now. He owns Wendy's in New Jersey, and that's something that the kids need to know. There is life after basketball.
That's
Very
true.
successful.
And also, if you
as
save
an
your money,
entrepreneur.
you save your money and invest your money.
Absolutely.
And that's the #1 thing, because I hate to hear these stories about NBA players or NFL players leaving and then they're broke
Let me
a
tell you
couple years
something.
later.
People saw him flipping burgers and cleaning tables. They didn't realize he owned the place, and they were talking about how bad he was doing, but he was the owner.
All right, cool. All right, another one, Rolando Blackman, Grady High School. As a matter of fact, one of my interns said he knew. And this intern is in high school right now. He plays ball, I believe, somewhere here in Brooklyn. But
Okay.
He knew about Rolando Blackman.
Rolando Blackman was the man, pure shooter. Rolando Blackman, see, the one thing about the NBA and the NBA success, it always is going to depend on who you get drafted by. He was drafted by the Dallas Mavericks when they were an expansion team. Rolando told me that they were going to play him no matter what because they had nobody else, so he was allowed to develop. What people don't know is Rolando Blackman was actually born in Panama. and didn't play basketball. I believe he was a soccer player. And Ted Gustis saw Rolando Blackman standing outside the fence when he had a team called the Ditmas All-Stars, invited the kid to come on in and play, and look what happened.
Four-time All-Star, right?
Four-time NBA All-Star. I mean, pure shooter, teamed up with another friend of mine, and I consider Rolando Blackman a friend. Another friend of mine, Derek Harper, and led the Mavericks to a 7-game series with the Lakers.
All right, now let's switch off a little bit because that was the past. Right now we are dealing with the present. Let's talk about the Knicks last night. Lakers, whew,
First of all,
it was like that last night.
First of all, the Knicks get Phil Jackson, and all of a sudden the Zen effect takes place, and they win 2 games in a row, and people want to throw parades, the parade of hope, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Hope is eternal, right?
Well, if you're in the desert and somebody brings a bottle of water, I mean, that's hope.
Okay, all right,
that's hope, and that's basically
and
what's
they're in the
happening
desert
with the
right
Knicks.
now.
Yeah, up and down, and which is really, really strange, hilarious, and entertaining is the fact that they still may make the playoffs as bad as they are because the teams in front of them stink also.
Right. Nets, Jason Kidd, Coach of the Year?
Once again, Jason Kidd. We should change his name to Kid Mecca. Because we talk about basketball in New York being the mecca of basketball. Anything good that has happened in basketball in the last 15 years has been directly connected to Jason Kidd. Really quick, the New Jersey Nets, when they went to the NBA Finals twice. Who was leading the pack there? Point guard? Jason Kidd. The Knicks, when they won 54 games last year, who was in the middle of that?
Jason Kidd.
The Nets, with the resurgence of the Nets and how well that they're doing right now, 23-10 in their last game since the All-Star break.
They lost to New Orleans a couple of days ago.
Right, but one of the hottest teams in the NBA now. They are going to make the playoffs. They're battling Toronto for that spot so that they could have full court in the first round of the playoffs. Who's in the middle of that? The coach, Jason Kidd. Right. That's right.
All right. When we look at this team, Joe Johnson was also nominated Eastern Player of the Week.
He was Eastern Player of the Week last week, yeah. So Joe Johnson's a clutch man. I mean, Joe Johnson is living up to what we thought he was going to be. And even with Kevin Garnett being hurt, the Nets are still playing well.
We got 2 weeks. 2 weeks left in the season. The season ends April 16th, the day after D-Day, when you pay your taxes. If you don't pay your taxes, IRS, well, run and hide. But anyway, what will happen then? April 16th is the last time they will play Cleveland that day.
The Nets are good.
They're good.
The Nets are good. I think the Nets will overtake Toronto, but the Nets are good. They'll get in that first round. They'll have a shot at winning that first round, especially if they have home court advantage. The real drama is across the river. But one thing about the Knicks, I mean, if you take an approach of just entertain me, it's all entertaining, good, bad. Phil Jackson, the guy with the gun. There's that J.R. Smith with the shoelaces, man. It's almost like a circus that continues to have an act. I love it.
And they continue to pack the house no matter what.
Continue to pack the house.
Matter of fact, probably season ticket sales went up for next year because of Phil Jackson.
Hey, come on. They were so desperate. What else? And I love Phil Jackson, but what else were the Knicks to do? What else was Dolan to do?
I can pull a rabbit out of my hat.
You can pull Phil Jackson out, too.
Because I'm your magic man.
There you
All
go.
right, cool. Let's go. When we come back, Lon Kuntz, Brooklyn-based, looks over some new applications, the kind you click on. For example, there's Wonders of the Universe, where you can visit a black hole out in space with a British professor as your tour guide.